Whenever you're ready.
So Kevin, thank you for agreeing to do this, first of all.
Sure,
We
no
really
problem.
appreciate it. And this is for the benefit of my 3 fair trade classes, to have sort of a window into your world of, first of all, what your internship is about and why you were asked to travel to Minneapolis. So first of all, could you give sort of an overview of your job?
Sure. So I am the sales and marketing intern at Kopali Organics, and basically my job is to go out and meet the customers, clients that we may have, like for stores, and talk to them and ensure that our product is being sold well. And basically, the internship as a whole is just supposed to promote my skills in marketing, and especially on a more I guess on a grassroots level,
Mhm.
as Jackie
Mm-hmm.
likes to run the company. I guess you can say it's a very small company,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's certified fair trade, right?
it is certified fair trade, exactly. And the grassroots campaign that she kind of keeps going is that we maintain like a very personal contact with
Is
all
it
of our
difficult to
customers.
do that?
It can be challenging, yes. I mean, I have not been in the company for that long, obviously. I think I'm going on 6 weeks at this point.
Mhm.
But it's challenging because there's so many. I mean, I'm just in New York, and we're just handling New York City as a whole, or at least I get to see what's being handled.
What is that
in New York.
interaction usually like when you interact with people that are buying a fair trade certified product?
Well, I mean, it really depends where you go. It's in my situation, I've been going to places that very heavily want that. I will
Mhm.
go to your Fairways, your Whole Foods, the local mom
So
and
they're
pop.
supportive.
They're very supportive, and they want that product, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Supporting the overall goal. But I haven't been in a situation. Actually, no, it's fine. Today was the first day I was actually put in a situation at work where they were just not interested, and it's hard because that's where your marketing and your skills come out. And one of the great things about your class, which when we were talking about it today, that came up was like talking up in class, because it's one of those situations where you just have to on the
You
moment
better speak.
figure out something to say, because you have to convince them. Be like, no, don't like say no to our product. Don't say you're not interested anymore. Here's why you should say yes, and
Wow.
they're going to give you a response, and you don't know what that response is going to be, and you have to be ready to give back another response to them that's going to convince them even more.
So where do you find the heart to do that kind of work? A lot of people would say, I don't feel like committing like that or putting myself out there like that, but where do you find the commitment?
Well, I enjoy marketing. I've always enjoyed the idea of marketing. It's interesting, I think, how marketing campaigns are done and how these companies work in general, just
Mhm.
because everything's based on consumer appeal. It's all psychological.
Okay.
So that's where my general interest in it.
Okay.
And so at the basis of it all, I just really am interested in the overall goal.
Okay.
But in actually pursuing myself to do this when it can get kind of difficult, I like a challenge. When I get too bored and things get too easy, I don't know, I see myself not caring as much. I kind of I'm not as proactive about things, and I prefer who I am when I am like challenging myself and I'm
And
busy
working.
and having work to do and finding myself like frustrated. Frustration is something that people don't want, but to some extent I kind of want frustration because it keeps me on track.
Wow. Well, tell us how the situation about Fordham funding your travel to Indianapolis came about. What was it? Minneapolis. Minneapolis. What was it that you had to attend, and what was it like to be there?
Okay, so well, the way it worked out first of all was that it was probably my first week of my internship. As Jackie continuously does, she will send out information about things that are happening throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
I know there is an event coming up in San Francisco, for example. Minneapolis was the first one that came up, and I was interested in it just because it was an opportunity to learn more about
What was
fair
the
trade.
event?
It was called the Real Food Challenge.
Okay.
It started out on the West Coast, and they traveled to different cities throughout
Mhm.
America. And basically what they do with that, they try to teach students specifically, it's a student conference, about how to get better fair trade certified food and organic food and those kind of healthier types of options on your campus. I was interested in it because, one, it was fair trade. I'm now
Mhm.
working for a fair trade food company,
Mm-hmm.
and fair trade in general because of
Mhm.
what I did last year, being the Amani Club. And I just saw the opportunity to do that, but they said they couldn't fund it. And I personally couldn't fund it out of my pocket
Of
at
course,
the time.
yeah.
It's very expensive to get out to Minneapolis, so it's like,
And then you had to
Yeah.
stay there.
you gotta stay in a hotel, and, well, you didn't have to, but yeah.
What did you learn?
The thing that I found really interesting about it was that one thing I should note is that because I went there with Kopali and I didn't go there with Fordham per se, Fordham funded
No.
the trip
We funded it, but you were there as a representative.
as the
of Kopali.
representative of Kopali
That's
Organics. The access I had to everything as a whole was very different.
In what way was it different?
I wasn't a student.
How did that work for you?
I could attend the panels, I could attend the larger discussions when they
Oh,
broke
that's
off
great.
into the smaller workshops. That was something that they would have to be very accommodating to fit me into. And they were, and they tried, but there were times where it just, they just had things pre-organized, and for me to go and disrupt the system just because I am a student, it didn't seem fair. So
Okay.
I respected what they had, and I just went to wherever was okay for me to be.
What did you pick up about the topic of finding out how students can get more fair trade and organic or just good food on campus? I mean, it's ironic you should mention it here in this room because a freshman student whose mother had fed him
Mhm.
organic food his whole life had to leave class last week because he'd been eating the calf food. And he was sick.
That
He's
is not
literally
surprising.
sick
That is
over
not surprising at all.
the poor quality of that food.
Well, you know something that's really
This
interesting?
one.
Sorry. You know something that's really interesting with that is that Sodexo actually sponsored the Real Food Challenge. Funny enough. But Sodexo actually has started taking steps towards becoming not fair trade, but providing more healthier options, organic options, things like that. They signed a form recently saying that they were going to try to do that. That does not necessarily mean it's going to happen on the Fordham campus, though. Sodexo as a whole, I mean, which I'm sure you
Well,
know,
they made that commitment.
they
yeah.
made that commitment, but Sodexo as a whole does supply so many people.
Yeah.
And I mean, in terms of it changing the Fordham standards of food, I don't think that's going to happen.
Is there anything you learned in that conference that you'd like to tell other Fordham students?
Well, I wrote it down right here.
Okay.
There was like 4 key points that they always every day kind of hit.
Okay, let's hear 'em.
So one of them was it's hard to exploit someone if you know them.
It's hard to exploit someone if
If
you
you know them. So
Great point.
connect the buyer to the maker.
Really good point. Excellent
So
point.
if you go and you happen to meet people who are making, I don't know, we're harvesting the cabbage or like
Mhm.
making the corn or whatever it is that they're doing, and you see the effort and the work that they have to put into
Mhm.
it. And that was the one great thing about the panel, by the way, was that these were people who were on the forums that came to speak to us. And
Wow.
they're saying, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, I have to do all this work, and then someone's haggling me for like $2 for something that I'm selling way cheaper than if you go to your local supermarket
Mhm.
on the side of the street, and they're haggling.
So they had speakers there from the producers.
Yes.
Were there fair trade producers?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What else did you learn?
The youth is the principle. They're saying that basically the youth is everything. We are the people that change. In every generation, in every decade, if you look at any sort of change that happens in the country, in the world, any sort of social change, any sort of reforming that may be happening, who starts it?
The
The
youth.
youth. We are in charge of changing this.
Yes.
The only people that can change it are us.
That's
And
right.
specifically the people who have the more opportunities, which go on to the third note they were saying, the partner principle, which is we have the connections. We can collaborate with our school, with our
Mhm.
community. We are not, obviously, as students at Fordham, as students at this conference who were fortunate enough to have the ability to travel there.
Mhm.
We obviously have the ability to communicate with other people in our community to make these changes a possibility.
Yep.
We're not at the lower end of the spectrum. We're not the people who are on the streets, on the Grand Concourse, who
Mhm.
are eating McDonald's every day and don't know that that's bad for them and only eating that because that's what they can afford.
Well said.
You
Yeah.
know, we are the people who make the change. So nothing can happen until our generation does something about it.
Well, I really thank you for coming back and giving
Of
out
course.
that message.
No problem.